All right. Big day today. I hope you all had a blessed Thanksgiving. I personally, it was great to see family and friends, but I picked up some sort of virus and I do not feel good. I don't know if you guys can tell by my voice, but it's an important day and I couldn't skip the CleanSpark earnings report. It'll be coming out here, I think right at market close. I'm kind of behind and I'm running behind a little bit just because I'm feeling under the weather. I do have members only mode activated right now. And that's just to control some of the spam and the emotional retail traders that'll come in here and just trash talk me or trash talk the company for no apparent reason. If you want to chat, it's only like $3 a month, and you get to help. You support me as well. So you get to chat and you get to support me, which is pretty awesome. $3 might not seem like it goes a long ways, but when a lot of people are part of the membership, that does go a long way. So it means a lot to me. I need to work on getting this stuff pulled up on my other screen here. Otherwise, we're not going to be ready for this. So I'm going to do that. If you guys have any questions, I see Jesse's in here, micro to macro. I hope his wife is under the weather as well. It seems like, I don't know, this Thanksgiving a lot of people got sick, which is unfortunate, but we're fighting through it. Okay, I got to pull up this press release. Thanks for your patience with me. I know this isn't ideal. All right, so the webcast, it says, is at 3:30. So we're going to be live for about 40 minutes until the conference call starts. But I will be live streaming the conference call, and that'll be a lot of fun. I think, I've said it on my X account that, and I've studied this management team. I've talked to them many times. I've visited their facilities several times. Very rarely do they get this quiet when something is shifting so dramatically in the market. So I'm optimistic that they're going to announce something important today. Hopefully I'm not let down by that. But just based on my history with the company and what I know about this management team, they haven't forgotten how to be the best. They haven't forgotten how to execute. They haven't forgotten how to be the most efficient. So we'll see. I don't want to set your expectations too high either. It looks like we already have more than 500 people in here, which is absolutely crazy. But I'm going to get this conference call pulled up, and okay, I'm going to continue without an account. This is always kind of a pain in the butt to sign up for these conference calls. Okay. All right. It says, thanks for registering. We will okay, whatever. Think you got the conference call pulled up. And then I'll actually share this with you. Not a lot of people know about this website. Maybe I can switch my screen. I gotta share my screen first. Okay. All right. And I want to share this screen. Okay. Maybe not while I'm signing in. How about? Okay. But a very good earnings website is called Earnings Hub. I am not a partner. I do know the owner of this website, but it's fantastic if you guys aren't a part of it yet, and I can pull it up now. Right here. So Earnings Hub, it gives you a whole calendar, and then it gives you AI breakdowns of these earnings reports. Like on my front page right now is I guess it's Iron now, who's another fellow Bitcoin mining company. You can play earnings calls. They have AI summaries of the earnings release, and they have AI summaries of the actual earnings call, and then the transcript for the earnings call. So if you're like deep in the weeds of being an individual investor, I highly recommend signing up for Earnings Hub. It's relatively cheap. It's kind of a cheat code that I use, to be honest with you. And then I actually use Stock Titan. They have, if I can get it pulled up, they have a news feed that I really enjoy where it shares all of the earnings reports coming across the wire, if I can remember how to get there. Let's see, I think it's here maybe. I'll get it figured out. But it looks like at the end of the day today, and I got to change my computer screen a little bit here, but CleanSpark finally went green here at the end of the day, which is exciting. I mean, it's been painful. It traded up at the beginning of the day, and it was actually the only green Bitcoin mining company out there. And it went down. It was red at one point, and I actually bought calls here right around the bottom. Just lucky timing. But I'm really optimistic that the company's going to announce something. They're going to make some noise, I guess is the best way to put it. And I don't know if that'll come right at market close or if that'll come, during the conference call. I don't know, but I'm going to be listening closely. I'm going to be reading the press releases super closely. But I guess it's not the end of trading quite yet, but it's up basically 1% as of now. Already 700 people in here. That is amazing. Looks like we have some comments that I can go through quick before we get the earnings press release. Jesse says he's feeling pretty good about it. Okay, I am too. So that's good to know that Jesse feels good about it because he's got a good nose for this stuff. Mike, LFG, Chad, yeah, you're a member. If you can chat, you are a member. Jason says Jesse was struggling with his voice today too. He took some honey in his drink during his broadcast. I'm doing the much more unhealthy thing. I'm drinking a Mountain Dew. I know it's not healthy for me, but man, I needed some caffeine. My body did not want to wake up today. I feel like I got hit by a bus. But again, it's an important day. I can't skip CleanSpark's earnings call. Let's see. Suzanne signed up for the membership. Thank you so much. Tyler says, appreciate your time. I appreciate you spending your time with me. All of you guys, over almost 800 people here already, which is crazy. Thank you for spending time with me. It's just incredible that I get to wake up and do this for a living every day. I'm incredibly blessed, and it's thanks to you guys that support me. Trader Insights looks like he might have had a question here. Hey, Rex, since no one has a crystal ball, as per intuition, when do you think Bitcoin top might come around and possible CleanSpark targets by then? That's a very difficult question to answer, and I got to make sure we're not going to miss an earnings report here. But I can answer this quickly. I really don't know. I just know the headwinds for the economy are fading, and the headwinds that were headwinds are becoming tailwinds. I think people are underestimating the confidence that Trump 2.0 and the Federal Reserve easing actually gives businesses and consumers. They're going to hire more, they're going to spend more, they're going to work more hours, they're going to invest more. All of those things just leads to more and more risk appetite in the stock market. I personally have never really, it's worked out, so it's stupid to say that I don't believe in the 4-year Bitcoin cycle. But I think every cycle is different. I think Bitcoin's going to follow the economy much more than some pre-programmed cycle, because if anything's perfectly predictable, people are going to front run the bottom, they're going to front run the top, rendering it perfectly unpredictable. That's why there's just no get rich quick scheme in the market. So I actually think this Bitcoin bull run could last much longer than most people think or even realize. Knock on wood, again, like you said, I don't have a crystal ball. As for CleanSpark price targets by then, I don't have a good answer for you. I do have a fair value spreadsheet that I put together for my members. I think you're in the Discord server. It's under the spreadsheets tab that kind of gives you somewhat of an idea of where I think the fair value for the company is. It's not necessarily a price target saying, well, if Bitcoin reaches 125,000, this is where CleanSpark will be. No, it's just what I value the company at based on different, Bitcoin price levels. So great question. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. And Jesse's, I'm sure, has some great thoughts as well that he can share in the comments section. Looks like Juju B, all right, is here. Main Stage says he joined the club. Hey, thanks, Main Stage. Means a lot to me. Rebecca says she's very excited to see what they have to say. I am too. Jesse here, he just answered what I was talking about. Patterns definitely exist over 4 years, but new data always has to be taken into consideration because this time can be different. And I know there was a lot of FUD today about, let me take this comment off, about the U.S. government moving the almost $2 billion in Bitcoin that they hold. But they've done this before, and that's the part of it that other people won't tell you, they won't share with you, the United States government has moved wallets before, and it's actually on Coinbase's side of things. So I think this is a lot of FUD that's actually caused the sell-off in Bitcoin today. My personal opinion, but that, again, that's part of the reason I did choose to buy some call options on CleanSpark. I don't know, about an hour ago, I suppose it was. Let's see if we have any CleanSpark news that's come across the news wires. I'm guessing they were going to release their earnings right at market close, and I need to zoom in. I know this is very, very small print for you guys. I'm on a 5K screen, which I didn't even know they made 5K yet. Okay, so no news yet. I'm going to pay attention to this. Sometimes we can get the news fastest actually from X. So I'm just going to go back to my face cam. We just broke 1,000 viewers. Can we talk about that real quick? That is insane. Thank you guys so much. And again, if you want to chat, it's $3. Hit the join button. You get to support me. It's awesome. But yeah, we're going to listen to the conference call. You're going to have my live analysis of the CleanSpark earnings report. All of that good stuff. I think the future is very bright for both Bitcoin and the company. I think right now, honestly, people are underestimating just what the future really looks like for these companies. And maybe that's for many different reasons, but that's my personal opinion. And I never want to be, I always say this, I never want to be part of the flock that just flies to what's popular. We've had a lot of people sell out of CleanSpark stock over the past week because it was underperforming. And all of a sudden, MicroStrategy and Mara, they're hot. So I'm going to go buy Mara. That's not really how it works. If you're part of that flock, you're going to lose over time. You have to beat the markets, and to beat the markets, you have to beat the markets to the next trend. And that also means not getting shaken out of your position when certain things happen. I'm kind of 50-50 personally on the convertible notes. I see the upside of it. I understand the markets are rewarding it tremendously right now. I just am not a fan of it if it doesn't help the business fundamentals. I don't think short-term market dynamics are reasons that somebody should, or that a company should make, a decision that changes their business model dramatically overnight, I guess is the easiest way to put it. I still don't see an earnings report. Let me know if you guys have it. But I'm just waiting here on my other computer screen that you guys can't see right now, waiting for something to come through the news wire. Let's see. Jason said, "Our U.S. government going to sell it spitefully on the 5th of January. I mean, it's possible. But, if that happens, Trump has already said he's going to back the Bitcoin industry, I guess is what you can call it. The Bitcoin industry. So if the United States government goes out and sells their $2 billion of Bitcoin, who really cares? Because it means the United States government is probably going to be a buyer of Bitcoin if they have zero in their treasury when Trump takes office. So that's not even really something I'm too concerned about right now. I don't know. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts about that, or anybody here in the comment section. Rebecca says, "And thank you, Rex, for always giving your DD and your honest opinion on the market. It has been you guys retail that have been so much more accurate on your research compared to mainstream media." Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks, Rebecca. That means a lot to me because I do hours of research every single day, and I'm more of a quality over quantity guy. Like, my most recent video on MicroStrategy has 70-something thousand views. I haven't even put out a video since then. But it's because I really focus on my research and my understanding of different industries and the economy and what's driving the stock market and things like that. And if I don't have something important to share, I'm not going to share it. But I will have some new videos coming out soon. So stay tuned for that. But I do appreciate those comments, Rebecca. Nitro Bricks said he perhaps just bought some March 15th CleanSpark calls. I don't hate it. All right, let me refresh. Come on, CleanSpark. We got to go. I still don't see anything coming across the newswire. So I'll refresh one more time. Let me know in the chat if something does come and I miss it, by the way, because we're just kind of in limbo right now. Awkwardly burning time. Maybe I should put on some elevator music or something. We're up to 1,400 viewers before the earnings have even come out and before the conference call has even started. That's insane. Okay. Yeah, I have my news feed pulled up. I guess I think this automatically refreshes, but I could share my screen so you guys see it when it comes across the news wire. Well, that's not the camera I wanted. There we go. Somebody says CleanSpark stock is falling right now. Let's see. It's always funny the initial moves that something makes. It's down 3% right now. I still don't see any news out there right now. I put out a tweet the other day. I know it's not a tweet, it's a post now, talking about the short selling in CleanSpark stock. And I think I was kind of the one that broke the news, to be honest with you. And X and YouTube went crazy after it. But I put out a piece of news here, short selling update on CleanSpark. If you guys aren't aware, there's a $700 million short that's placed on CleanSpark stock right now. And that's as of November 15th, so a couple weeks ago. So it's been a couple weeks, and we've had negative selling pressure on CleanSpark stock. I personally believe, and I said it in this post, that this short is approaching $1 billion. $1 billion of short selling pressure on the stock. I mean, that's a lot of ammo. That is a lot of ammo to take advantage of. It takes one short covering, and if we do get a piece of really positive news, or if CleanSpark does make some noise today, that could be the start of that short sell covering snowball. I know that's kind of a tongue twister. I said I bought shares there. So yeah, I haven't been a net buyer of CleanSpark or the Bitcoin miners since late 2022, just because it's been a concentration risk for my portfolio. You know, I first bought CleanSpark in 2020 at like $2 a share, kind of bought some on the way up, stupidly looking back on it. And then I bought a bunch more at the end of 2022 at around $2 per share again. So, you know, as CleanSpark stock has gone up, it's become a larger and larger position in my portfolio. So I haven't added any exposure to it. I haven't added any fresh capital to it up until recently, because I believe so strongly in the prospects for Bitcoin and for CleanSpark right now, moving forward, short-term, medium-term, and long-term. So I bought shares the other day, and I also, just today, I mentioned earlier, I bought some call options that expire in 2 weeks, very short term. If we get an earnings pop, I'll probably just take profits on it. Jason asked, what percentage of my portfolio is it? You know, I run like 3 or 4, maybe actually 5 portfolios, and I haven't done the math on it. I would guess it's anywhere between 40 and 50% of my portfolio, which is too much for me personally, for my personal comfort. Everybody's different. You know, I can't tell you, I'm not a financial advisor, but for me, that's getting to uncomfortable levels. I'd like it to be more in the 30% range. And don't take that as me not believing in the company and its future, because I absolutely do. But concentration risk is a real thing, and fortunately, I'm young enough that I can still recover if I make a mistake or something, you know, bad happens to my position in the portfolio. But yeah, back to this, the combination of short-term market dynamics and just how strong Bitcoin miners are fundamentally right now gives me a lot of confidence in owning this company, which is why I did add fresh capital to it, and I hope I don't end up regretting that. But I just felt like it was time. Okay, let's see if we have any news from CleanSpark yet. We're just kind of in limbo here. I appreciate 1,700. Jeez, man, that is a new record for me. Thank you all. Make sure you subscribed if you're not subscribed already. And again, let me know. Oh, it dropped. Jason said it dropped. I don't know if he means the stock or the news. Let's see. Okay, I'm just going to... Well, I thought I could search it. Okay, let me go to X, and we will go... Just search CLSK. Sometimes this is the best thing to do. Here we go. Yeah, so it must have dropped. Revenue grows 100%. And I want to preface this, like, people sometimes go into Bitcoin mining earnings reports and they think something just crazy is going to happen with the numbers. We really don't care about the numbers because they're the most predictable. Oh, here we go. I hope this link isn't a virus. There's some of the most predictable business models. What I mean by that is we generally know how much Bitcoin these companies are mining, and we absolutely know what the price of Bitcoin is. So when it comes to revenues and profits, it's never really that big of a surprise. You're always looking for new news to come out or a new announcement to come out that really shakes up the market. And I don't like the look of this file because it's so zoomed out. I apologize for that, but this is what we're working with right now. I'll kind of read through it. I wish this was a little better. Maybe I'll refresh CleanSpark's news. Here we go. This will be way better. This is way better. Okay. Thank you whoever posted that on X, but I'm not going to use it. Let me close out of that. Okay. CleanSpark reports record-breaking fiscal year 2024 results, outpacing halving and difficulty. Revenue grows 125% year over year. Current hash rate surpasses 33.5 exahash per second, on track for 37. So the end of year guidance has not changed, which is not surprising. I mean, we're just days away from the end of the year, technically. They're not going to raise their guidance a month out of the end of the year. That'd be kind of silly to do. Now, they'll probably come out and beat that guidance of 37 exahash per second, but there's no purpose in bumping that higher, especially when they just recently did that. Zach Bradford says, our performance this year reflects a sustained growth trajectory, solidifying our position as one of the top Bitcoin miners in the world as we move into an anticipated new bull market. So clearly, CleanSpark's management team is very bullish. They agree with me, or maybe I should say I agree with them, that the tailwinds for both Bitcoin and this Bitcoin mining space are very strong. He says, reflecting on the past year, our results in fiscal year 2024 and the positioning of the company going into 2025 demonstrated the wisdom of our counter-cyclical growth and capital allocation strategy. We produced durable, high-performing growth and have been since our earliest days in Bitcoin mining. CleanSpark has prioritized owned infrastructure as its core foundation, putting us in the best position to optimize our portfolio of data centers to drive ROI to our shareholders as we continue to rapidly deploy additional hash rate on our path to 37 exahash by year end and 50 exahash and beyond in 2025. So even for 2025, they have not bumped their guidance any higher. They bumped it higher, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago to 50 exahash per second, but they haven't touched it since then. We anticipated that there would be prime opportunities for M&A paired with organic growth, and over the past year, we capitalized on adding 423 megawatts to our operating portfolio, bringing us to 726 megawatts as of today. They're going to be talking about gigawatts here pretty soon. As we continue focusing on scale in 2025 and beyond, we will develop the remaining hundreds of megawatts in the near-term pipeline while always staying opportunistic. And that is a question I asked Matthew Schultz in my interview with him a couple of weeks ago, is, they're actually long infrastructure. They're long mining rigs right now. They have everything they need just to build out that pipeline. So I asked him if I guess additional acquisitions would slow and they would just focus on developing that pipeline. He didn't say that. He said it'd be some of both, that they wouldn't stop acquiring if the right deals were there. CleanSpark CFO has said in the past that, it's not a wave of acquisitions in their minds. It's more of a constant for CleanSpark, which I admire. I appreciate. They've been great at accretive dilution, accretive growth. Anyways, I'll continue with the quote here. The team produced our strongest year of financial performance to date, solidifying a track record of effective execution and keeping commitments to shareholders. This fiscal year included the fourth halving event in Bitcoin's history, and our organizational commitment to operational excellence has allowed us to weather it more successfully than many of our industry peers. Oh, I guess that's the CFO, Gary Vecchiarelli. I just figured out how to say that the other day, so don't feel bad if you don't know how to say that. Even with the halving event impacting block rewards and a significant increase in difficulty, our production outpaced both, yielding approximately 7,100 Bitcoin thanks to our growth in hash rate and the efficiency improvements to our fleet. CleanSpark's financial strength continued to grow in fiscal 2024. Heading into 2025, we have significant scale and size, a healthy balance sheet, industry-leading operations, and a strong liquidity position. And we are well positioned to pursue diverse capital raising strategies. Okay, that's interesting. I wonder what they mean by diverse capital raising strategies. I think probably the most important note there in that quote is healthy balance sheet. You can look across the industry, and that I'm talking about the Bitcoin mining industry, and you won't find a company that has a healthier balance sheet than CleanSpark, because to date, they don't have, I shouldn't say any debt, but they have very little debt on their balance sheet. So that means they have the ability to leverage their balance sheet, unlike all of the other players in the space, because the other players in the space have already levered up their balance sheet. So that's kind of an advantage that CleanSpark has right now. And I would not be surprised to see CleanSpark explore those debt markets a little bit. I don't think that they would deploy that convertible bond to buy Bitcoin strategy. They've just been so against buying Bitcoin in the past. And it makes sense. I mean, you can acquire Bitcoin for, I don't know, a 40, 50% discount right now. Why would you go out and buy spot Bitcoin? I actually did the math the other day. There's still leverage there. There's quite a bit of leverage there. You can spend $500 million to deploy or develop a 20 exahash per second mining fleet, or you can spend $500 million on buying spot Bitcoin. At the end of the day, the ROI, or I guess the IRR, internal rate of return, is greater on developing that infrastructure. Now, that's oversimplifying it a little bit, but that leverage is still there. That's why owning Bitcoin mining companies is so attractive, because there's that natural leverage in the business. MicroStrategy, Mara, if they're going to buy spot Bitcoin, they have to buy it at spot prices. I guess Mara, not necessarily, but if they want to go out and buy Bitcoin, they have to do that. Whereas CleanSpark or the Bitcoin miners can continue to acquire it for 40, 50% discount, which is immediate positive margin and profitability. Anyways, I'm going to keep going here. I keep going on tangents. I apologize for that. They talk about, I'm going to skip that. Their assets, they have 120 million in cash, over 500 million in Bitcoin, includes a Bitcoin receivable of $78 million posted as collateral. Oh, I think that's for their Coinbase line of credit, I would guess anyways. They hold 8,000 Bitcoin. And yeah, we need to remember this is as of September 30th. So Bitcoin's price was $63,000. So this actually is much more than that today. Current liabilities, $188 million. Total liabilities, $201 million. Total stockholders' equity, $1.8 billion. That's a lot of stockholders' equity. Almost $2 billion for what? I mean, what's the market cap on CleanSpark? $2 billion of stockholders' equity for a $3.6 billion company. That's insane. And it looks like really positive reaction to the earnings so far. Let me know if I missed out on any other piece of news, but this is the only thing I saw come across the headlines was this press release, and I don't think they've put out anything else, but let me know if they did. So yeah, this is exciting. Obviously, that's really good for, if you own CleanSpark or, I bought call options today. I share those in the Discord server and on Patreon, yada, yada, yada. You get the gist. There's so many memberships out there today. But up 6.5%. That's gonna, that's pretty good. That's pretty good reaction so far. Okay, let me go make sure. Okay, so looks like the earnings call maybe is getting fired up. I'm gonna somebody let me know in the chat because I don't want to mess this up. I'm gonna turn up. Well, I guess it's max volume right now. Can you guys hear that music? I guess is what I'm wondering. Let me know if you can hear that music. So if you can hear the music, we'll be able to hear the people talk. If you can't hear the music, I'm gonna have to make some changes. You think you should be able to hear it. Again, I'm using kind of a new streaming software. Okay, no, you can't hear the music. So what do I do? Dang it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to try this again. I'm kind of a rookie here. And again, sorry, I'm sick. I have a stuffy nose. I have Kleenexes here. I'm using StreamYard, Jesse. Stop sharing my screen. Let me go here. Share screen. Okay, hang on. I think I got it. I got it. Oh, I have to share a tab? Oh, that kind of sucks. Okay. Anyways, can you hear it now? I think you should be able to hear it now. I had to change my source. It's not very loud, but I think that probably fixed it. Okay, we're good. So I'm going to turn that, I guess, I don't know, unless you guys want to listen to the music. It's kind of elevator music. I'm going to mute it for now. Let me know if you want me to turn it back on. Jesse says, do I run ads? No, I turned ads off for this. I don't want anybody to be interrupted during the conference call and then miss part of it if there's important information. So I did that. And having it in members only mode, should help, monetize it for me. That's all I really need. Yeah, so thanks, Jesse. Good point. If I did run ads, I'd want to kill the music. Otherwise, you're talking about copyright. I might leave it on just so I can hear. I'll mute it for now, but I'll turn it back on when we get closer to the bottom of the hour when the conference call is supposed to start. Okay. Anyways, let's go back to the chat. I haven't checked in on the chat in a while. 1,800 people. I mean, this is nuts. Thank you guys so much. I got to scroll up a ways here. Sorry, I'm way behind. Okay, here I'll switch back to this screen. Main stage news says many are still bullish on MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy historically is played as the canary in the coal mine and tops first. If MicroStrategy rises past $540 after Bitcoin breaks 100,000, may be an indication on if we're near a top. Yeah, that's a fair point. Certainly. Fair point. I don't own any MicroStrategy personally. I don't think it's an awful. I think a MicroStrategy is going to perform just fine if Bitcoin does well. That's interesting. I guess I haven't done that research to see that it's a market top indicator for Bitcoin. Kind of makes sense though. That's where all the big money goes. That's where the debt only investors go. As Mike says, You've got the insights of a 60-year-old hedge fund manager. How's that even possible? Well, thank you. I don't consider myself that good at this, but thank you. I just do a lot of research, and I sign up to a lot of people that have been on Wall Street, and they put out macroeconomic analysis, and I read through that, and I study that. I read the Wall Street Journal. I mean, I just do a ton of research. It's a lot of work, but to succeed in life at anything, you got to put in work. So I don't think I'm doing anything that special, if you ask me. Jesse says you're right about MicroStrategy being a top signal, but I would argue we are nowhere near the top of this cycle. I would agree with Jesse. I think and I know, I'm probably the first one on the internet, or the only one on the internet that will, I'm the biggest at contrarian investing that there is out there. Meaning, if there's a lot of bulls, I'm usually bearish. If there's a lot of bears, I'm usually bullish. That served me very well, but this seems different. There's a lot of tailwinds. You talk about Trump. You talk about the hundreds of senators and representatives that were just elected that are pro-Bitcoin going into Congress. You talk about, the POTUS, the Federal Reserve, the United States Treasury, all stimulating an already warm or healthy economy. And it gets really exciting. And you really struggle to see an economy that falls through. You really struggle to see us having a recession. Over the past few years, it's been the most anticipated recession of all time, yet it's been nowhere to be found. And that's as interest rates were rising and as economic conditions were tightening. So why would we see a recession or a bear market or a huge drawdown now that all of the stimulus is coming into play, when we were just fine before the stimulus came into play? It's a really, really tough argument to make. You can talk about valuations, and people are paying way too much for stocks, or paying way too much for the earnings of companies. But at the end of the day, what makes somebody pay more for a company? It's overall risk of recession, and it's the risk that company will go bankrupt. And right now, both of those risks are very, very small. It's hard to have a recession if you're stimulating an economy. Sure, if there's too much stimulus, you misidentify a crisis in the system, you can have reinflation, which might cause a recession down the line, but short term, it's just not going to happen. And I think that's part of the reason I'm so excited about Bitcoin this cycle. And it's part of the reason I think this could be an extended cycle. I don't think it's going to be limited to the 4-year cycle that people talk about. Biz says, what's up, Rex? It's 1.6 thousand people here. Biased on this CleanSpark is about to take off sooner or later. Yeah, I never would have guessed we'd have 1,800 people here prior to the conference call. That's incredible. Thank you guys so much for that. Let's see. Thoughts on adding convertible notes for CleanSpark? I kind of talked about this briefly, Jason. I could see the company doing convertible notes. I just don't think they would use the proceeds to purchase spot Bitcoin. I could see them using the proceeds to develop that huge pipeline they have of mining infrastructure and mining facilities. I guess more like energy infrastructure and power infrastructure. I don't see them buying spot Bitcoin with it, though. And that's just because they've been so against it in the past. And I don't think it makes the most business sense necessarily. It'd be cool if the company could find a way to raise non-dilutive capital, which means obviously going into the debt markets, and you probably wouldn't be doing a convertible. That'd be cool, though. I mean, that'd be my preference right now. They have the ability to leverage up the balance sheet. If we think this bull market's going to last a while longer, now's the time to leverage that up. Jesse says my throat's going to be wrecked after this. Yeah, it will be. I just don't feel good. No excuses though. Jesse says hit the like. Thank you. Why did I just realize that the membership icon is a T-Rex? Yeah, it's kind of cool. For those of you that don't know, my middle name is Rex. My first name is not Rex. That's why like executives or people on the internet might call me Ben. My first name's actually Benjamin, and my middle name is Rex. Rex was my great-grandfather who started our family farm, so I'm technically a fourth-generation farmer. But I thought, I think Rex is kind of a cool name. So, yeah, they're kind of a play on words there. I know. Okay, Drew joined the membership. Thank you so much, Drew. That means a lot to me. Billionaire says leave the convertible debts for grifters. I wouldn't call them grifters necessarily. I mean, I think there's been positive things that have come out of the convertible notes and buying spot Bitcoin. The markets have rewarded that handsomely. I guess other than today. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I think Mara announced another convertible note offering today. And yeah, they were down 6.5%. So the market did not reward them for that today, which is interesting. Maybe that's kind of a shift in the markets back to back to somewhat more to the middle. Oh, sorry, I'm not even sharing my Chrome screen, so you didn't even see that. But well, I guess I'm sharing my tab, so I can't share my Chrome screen. Dang it. Anyways, Marathon is down 0.5%. You guys are tracking CleanSpark. Earlier, it was up 6.5% after hours. Now it's back to like flat. It's up 1% after hours. So I think the earnings call is going to be where the money really is. We're going to be listening closely. I'm going to be taking notes. I encourage everybody to listen to this conference call and take your own notes of important things that you hear. That way you don't forget it. And you can always I'll leave this live stream up for replay so you can come back and watch it and re-listen to it whenever you want to. Looks like the conference call is going to start here in just a few minutes. Let me go back here. EPS positive for the quarter, 8 cents. Yeah. Seems like they're mirroring Mara's strategy. Maybe. I don't know necessarily what you mean by that. Mara has actually they've been a pioneer in a way, but they've actually more followed CleanSpark's lead when it comes to like owning their infrastructure. Mara used to not own any of its assets. They used to be quote unquote asset light. And they saw the markets were rewarding CleanSpark, and they actually followed CleanSpark's lead on that. So, that's the beauty of this space and this industry is there's so many companies here kind of pushing the envelope further, pushing this industry further, which is a really, really good thing because if one company has a great idea and it works, then the rest of the industry can follow suit and investors are happy. But again, this is a very, very young industry. I honestly think, and maybe I shouldn't say this live because it might come back to bite me, but I believe like the 90% drawdowns in Bitcoin mining stocks are a thing of the past. We're just kind of advancing along this learning curve where, the amount of bad debt deals going on have crumbled after, the 2022 bear market and all those stupid, those stupid debt deals that were made at the peak of the market in 2021. I think that's kind of a thing of the past, which is going to provide somewhat of a floor to the Bitcoin mining stocks in the future. I'm not saying we're not going to see the 50, 60, 70% drawdowns, but the really, really bad 90% might be a thing of the past. And another reason I say that is because when the economy does eventually bust, it will again. I think it's going to be more so caused by hyperinflation than anything really debt related, I guess you could say. And if that's the case, Bitcoin should do really well in a hyperinflationary environment. And if that's the case, you also want exposure to assets because assets have embedded pricing protection in them. So I think the Bitcoin miners are somewhat protected from that future economic downturn if it does come. But yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of what I'm thinking right now. My thoughts evolve over time. Let's see. How many minutes are we away from this conference call starting? About a minute. So I'm going to switch over to that. Go here and I'll unmute it. The music is still going on, so you guys probably hear that. But this should be interesting. I'm going to take notes and I'll kind of give you a summary before I end the stream. After the conference call, I'll answer all your questions or your thoughts before signing off. And then I actually have to take my grandpa to one of his church-related events tonight. So that should be fun, I guess. But this is going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to this. I'll keep scrolling through these comments here. Remo joined the membership. Thank you so much, Remo. It means a lot to me. Rex, a baby Bitcoin Buffett contra. Yeah, well, maybe. Honestly, people think you can't use some of Buffett's logic in this space, but you really can. His fundamental investing approach and what he thinks can be tied into a lot of what these companies do, especially when you have emotional traders all over the place in this Bitcoin mining space. You really have to understand what you own, and usually being a contrarian in this space pays off big time. So I don't know, funny note there, Bitcoin Buffett. Let's see. Jesse says, I'd be okay with them building out infrastructure and using it to not sell Bitcoin that they mine. Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that's the last thing companies should be doing is selling their Bitcoin.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
My name is Krista, and I will be your conference operator today.
Let me know if you can, if it's loud enough.
I would like to
I can
everyone
work on
to our
turning it up if
conference
it's
call.
not.
All
I
lines
might
have
mute
been
my
placed on
microphone
mute
so
to
that
prevent any
we don't get
background
much
noise.
echo.
And
I'll
after the speaker's
tie in some
remarks,
of my
there will be
thoughts
a
throughout the
question and
conference call,
answer
but I'm
session.
going to be taking notes
If
for the
you would
most
like
part. I'll
to
give
ask a
a
question
review of it
during this
later
time,
after the conference
simply
call.
press star followed by the
Let me know
number
if
1 on your telephone keypad.
if the audio
And
is
if you
loud
would like to
enough.
withdraw that question,
It looks
again,
like we
press
had another
star
new
1.
member.
Thank you.
MB, welcome.
And at this
Thank you.
time,
And
I would
subscribe
like
if
to
you're new
turn
here
the
or returning
floor
not yet subscribed.
over
We have one
to
of the fastest
Brittany
growing stock
Moore,
market YouTube channels on this
Director
platform.
of Investor Relations.
I'd love to continue that. I'm kind of biased, but we've had a lot of success. Anyways, I'm muting.
Welcome to CleanSpark's fiscal full year financial results call covering the period October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2024. Our press release was issued about 30 minutes ago and is available on our website at CleanSpark.com. Today's call is also being webcast, and a replay and transcript will be available on our website. On the call with me are Zach Bradford, our Chief Executive Officer, and Gary Beccarelli, our Chief Financial Officer. Keep in mind that some of the statements we make today are forward-looking and based on our best view of the world and our business as we see them today. The statements and information provided remain subject to the risk factors disclosed in our most recently filed annual report. We will also discuss certain non-GAAP financial measures concerning our performance during today's call.
This is all boring stuff. Jesse, I sent you a StreamYard link if you can or want to join. I'll pull you up here maybe after the call or something just to give your quick thoughts. If you want to, no pressure.
And with that, it is my pleasure to turn the call over to Zach.
Thank you, Brittany, and good afternoon, everyone. We appreciate your interest in our company as we share the results of a pivotal and transformative year for CleanSpark. The year marked the culmination of several years of strategic planning, preparation, and execution to fully leverage the halving event. We emerged with an optimal combination of power contracts, infrastructure, mining fleet, Bitcoin HODL, and organic growth pipeline as we enter the next phase of the cycle. Our financial performance this year reflects a sustained growth trajectory, with more than $378.9 million in revenue generated. That's a substantial increase from the $164.8 million reported last fiscal year. This year-over-year growth, over 125%, demonstrates our precise execution of plan before and after the halving that occurred midway through our fiscal year. Our adjusted EBITDA of $245.8 million for the year also showed impressive growth. That's an increase of $220.8 million, or 882% growth over last year, underscoring the success of our infrastructure-first expansion strategy and its focus on fleet efficiency and operational excellence. As a result, we produced our strongest year of financial performance to date, solidifying a track record of effective execution and keeping promises to shareholders. Reflecting on the past year, our growth aligns closely with the clear strategic priorities and objectives that we've articulated since our pivot to Bitcoin mining. CleanSpark has prioritized infrastructure at its core foundation, putting us in the best position to source miners to optimize fleet efficiency and deploy new hash rate into production in the most capital-efficient manner. A clear example of this strategy was the Bitmain order that we placed in January 2024. That order included 60,000 units and a strategic option to purchase another 100,000 units at the same low fixed price. This cost certainty allowed the team to focus on building and acquiring the underlying infrastructure that supported our targeted growth. Between our delivery schedule and growth in operational hash rate, the plan worked seamlessly and allowed us to reach 27.6 exahash per second at the end of September and 33.5 exahash where we stand today. This keeps us on a path to achieve our next milestone of 37 exahash per second this month. I want to discuss the way that we grew our infrastructure to support this incredible volume. There are three distinct infrastructure growth engines: greenfield development, organic expansion, and opportunistic acquisitions. Each pathway presents unique opportunities and challenges, yet our team has repeatedly proven its ability to achieve or exceed our goals across this strategy. I'd like to elaborate on these three drivers and emphasize their crucial role in advancing our strategic vision, positioning CleanSpark as the industry's leading operator.
Thank you so much, Brad.
Our goal
That's awesome.
is to establish the CleanSpark
And I
way
agree, Jesse.
as
Their
the benchmark of
execution has been
excellence
top
across
notch, which is
every
why I
dimension:
continue to own
growth,
CleanSpark rather than others.
scale,
Thank you so much, Brad. That means
efficiency,
so much to me.
capital stewardship, community engagement, and employee satisfaction, uptime, and more. We aim to set CleanSpark apart as a name synonymous with innovative and cutting-edge performance across all measures that flow through to the bottom line. Over the past 12 months, a rapid expansion has evolved our initial footprint into a robust portfolio of geographically diverse mining assets in Georgia, Wyoming, Tennessee, Mississippi, and New York. This regional structure maximizes operational efficiency, creating momentum in each local market, and disperses our mining assets in such a way as to harden us against extreme weather, price volatility in energy markets, and grid instability. Moreover, we've taken the front door approach of directly engaging with the communities in which we work and live that we templated in Georgia and tailored it to other rural communities that we call home. Allow me to highlight some other milestones we've reached over the past year. We've added over 425 megawatts to our operational power capacity, bringing our total portfolio.
Yeah, Jesse's right here. I mean, we generally know what CleanSpark has done and what their plans are. We need something new,
in our total
and exciting,
which now stands at more than 33 exahash per second, and putting us well on our way to achieve the goal of 37 exahash per second this month. This is a substantial leap from last year, when we were celebrating surpassing just 9.6.
Geez, thank you so much, Jason. You guys are incredible.
Our track record of
execution
and focus on delivering on our commitments has been instrumental in driving this performance, and we expect to repeat it in 2025 as we look to exceed 1 gigawatt of contracted capacity across our portfolio. With our infrastructure-first approach to growth, we prioritize resource allocation across our three primary growth engines. We optimize every aspect of our operations through cutting-edge technology upgrades and ensure every new facility aligns with the exacting standards of our vertically integrated business model of wholly owned, self-operated sites. Emblematic of this commitment, I'd like to remind everyone that our coinment contract is scheduled to expire shortly, making CleanSpark's operations 100% owned and operated by the end of next quarter. Our growth trajectory has been
if you guys missed that, they're saying goodbye to CoinMint. That was their only hosted Bitcoin miners. They're going to be 100% wholly owned.
At the core of our approach is a philosophy that extends beyond achieving the lowest joules per terahash metric for our fleet or the best kilowatt-hour price. It represents a commitment to integrity, operational excellence, and cost management that drives every decision. Growth is not solely about increasing capacity, but consistently optimizing our hardware, processes, and infrastructure to maximize output while conserving resources, ultimately delivering higher returns on investment. Our current fleet efficiency now stands at 19 joules per terahash and is significantly lower than our fleet average of 28.4 joules per terahash from September of last year. This efficiency continues to improve as we transition into the next, more methodical phase of our expansion. For us, cost reduction goes beyond mere budgeting. It is a discipline that enables us to reinvest in growth while remaining competitive in an industry where success is designed to continually get even more difficult. Operational excellence converges with these elements, ensuring that every facet of our operations, from power management to employee workflows, performs to the highest standards. This commitment allows us to pursue an ambitious growth plan without compromising on efficiency or our core values. firmly establishing CleanSpark as a leader in our field. We've achieved this level of growth through a balanced approach across our three growth avenues: greenfield development, organic expansion of existing sites, and strategic acquisitions. While our acquisition strategy may receive more attention, we remain deeply committed to greenfield development, identifying and building new sites with the talent and expertise we've developed, particularly in our newest markets. In Wyoming, we are currently contracted to add 75 megawatts in 2025 and have the potential of adding several hundred more. On the M&A front, we are realizing the rewards of our early countercyclical capital allocation. As noted, we began preparations for the halving over 24 months ago, anticipating that less efficient operators would face stark choices about their future. This foresight allowed us to position ourselves to capitalize on acquisition opportunities.
They've been great
consolidating over 178 megawatts in private asset acquisitions, including 9 sites acquired in September alone. Notably, after the end of the year in October, we closed the grid acquisition, which included 68 megawatts of developed infrastructure in Tennessee and over 400 megawatts of identified upside expansion opportunity. As we move forward, we are more committed than ever to our focus on Bitcoin mining and setting industry benchmarks in this rapidly evolving sector. Through deliberate prioritization, efficient infrastructure acquisition, and a reliable pipeline of state-of-the-art equipment through our purchase agreements, we've established a process that has paved a path to reach our target of achieving 37 exahash per second by year-end. With access to both power and hardware,
more gifted memberships. You guys are awesome.
Rigorously
thank you, Victor, and
strategy.
Thank you, Danny.
We have a strong track record of execution that aligns seamlessly
Next
with
time
our
we need a
vision for
crossover, Rex and
2025
Jesse. I agree. That's going to happen at some point.
This strategy,
it will.
Grounded
Stay
in
tuned for that.
countercyclical investment and the use of multiple avenues for efficient growth depending on current market conditions, has laid the foundation for our next milestone, a 50 exahash per second in 2025, while insulating our growth plans from the cyclical nature of the industry. Having overcome the challenges of finding the right approach and developing a winning formula, we stand ready to sustain our growth, even as we've entered a bull market, which will have the potential to inflate industry asset prices and may lead our competitors to make decisions that could ultimately prove to be capital destructive. As a result, we may turn our focus away from additional consolidation and towards maximizing the organic growth potential within our existing portfolio, providing us with great confidence and visibility on our journey to 50 exahash per second and beyond. Our decision-making process will be guided by delivering ROI to shareholders as we evaluate the options available. Before I finish, I'll comment on the recent trends that dominate conversations about our sector. While some competitors have diversified into AI and high-performance computing, we remain committed to Bitcoin mining as a vertically integrated, pure-play operation. As we stay focused on mining Bitcoin, we start generating revenue at greenfield sites in as little as 6 months. By contrast, a move into the AI or HPC space could extend that timeline significantly, potentially up to 3 to 4 years before our investors would see comparable high-margin revenue. This shorter payback period to revenue in Bitcoin mining underlines the value in our commitment as we deliver returns to our shareholders above all else. We will evaluate new opportunities on a case-by-case basis, but we believe in remaining focused on our core strength, at least for now. This conviction stems from the fact of Bitcoin's finite supply, which we see as a long-term support for our disciplined approach. In our view, each dollar invested in non-core areas represents a potential distraction at this phase in our growth. As we rinse and repeat our playbook into the future, we strengthen our path towards a dominant position in the mining space. In summary,
the market's going to start to appreciate that the higher Bitcoin goes, CleanSpark's focus and discipline on what they do. No distractions. No other company can make that claim.
50 exahash in 2025, with plans to continue growing and expanding our operations. Our vision goes beyond reaching this milestone. It encompasses building a business that is scalable, resilient, and repeatable. Our growth strategy is rooted in operational efficiency, driving strong margins and consistent performance. We've successfully delivered similar results before, and we are committed to achieving sustainable growth again. In 2025, we will focus on increasing our installed hash rate and boosting our monthly Bitcoin production, and always look for any opportunities to drive revenue and margin expansion. As we look ahead, timing is everything, and we position ourselves to fully capitalize on the current bull market. We're uniquely positioned with our power assets, and mining Bitcoin represents the best way to monetize them, especially in favorable market conditions like we see today. During this time, we'll continue to optimize cash flow and explore diverse sources of new capital to deliver value for our shareholders, but never at the expense of our core operations. Finally, I'd like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to the team at CleanSpark. Their relentless effort, creativity, and commitment are the engines behind all we achieve. Each success we celebrate is a direct result of their dedication, and it's a privilege to work alongside such inspiring professionals. With that, I'd now like to turn the time over to Gary to review the quarter and fiscal full year financial results in greater detail.
Thank you, Zach, and good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to review the detailed results
Gary's
for
a
the
very,
full
very smart
2024 fiscal year.
I consider myself fairly knowledgeable about finance and accounting. Like, I'm nerdy about this, so that's what I studied.
10K will be
Gary
posted
is
before market open
up here
tomorrow. As Zach said, it's been a pivotal and transformative year, and our financial results reflect this. The central fact of fiscal year 2024 is that Q4 was the first full quarter following the most recent halving event. Warren Buffett has famously said, "When the tide goes out, you find out who has been swimming naked." While I differ with him when it comes to the prospect for Bitcoin, Mr. Buffett's quip is a perfect metaphor for the impact of the halving event.
We were literally just
on the
talking about
weakest
Warren Buffett
operators in our
earlier.
space.
Unreal.
When the tide came in this time, CleanSpark had nothing to be embarrassed about. And in fact, we're downright proud of our performance, one that fully justifies the pivot to Bitcoin mining we made several years ago. Our revenues for the year were $378.9 million, an increase of approximately $210.6 million, or 125%.
Just FYI, he's kind of talking about stuff we already know, but get ready because Gary's probably the one that's going to tell us, he's going to be the one that gives us that alpha, information on what, if they're going to leverage up the balance sheet, if they're going to use convertible notes, et cetera, et cetera. So just pay attention to this part specifically.
Which shows we have managed to outpace the significant increase in difficulty in the pre-programmed halving event in April. Our gross profit for the year was $213.5 million, an increase in approximately $138.6 million, or 185% over the prior year. Again, the largest contributor here was the average Bitcoin price, which was significantly higher than last fiscal year. We also saw lower energy prices on a per kilowatt hour basis in fiscal 24. Looking at our GAAP net loss, we saw a loss of approximately $145.8 million for the fiscal year 2024. I want to point out that a large part of our net loss is due to a non-cash impairment expense of $197 million, most of which was recorded as of our last quarterly report. Finally, with respect to adjusted EBITDA, this non-GAAP financial metric increased to $245.8 million, compared to approximately $25 million in 2023. The largest contributor to this increase was due to the increase in value of Bitcoin, as the company adopted a new accounting standard, allowing it to mark-to-market its Bitcoin balance at each balance sheet date. I want to take a moment to discuss our power costs for the entire year. All-in power costs at our wholly owned sites for fiscal year 24 were 4.6 cents per kilowatt hour, which is lower than our all-in power costs in fiscal 2023 of 4.8 cents per kilowatt hour. Our wholesale electricity costs in 2024 averaged 3.1 cents per kilowatt hour, with prices as low as 1.2 cents at points during the year. Included in our all-in power costs is an additional 1.5 cents per kilowatt hour of costs related to transmission and distribution, profit margins to the cities we operate in, and taxes.
You'd think that power costs are only going to go down under Trump too, so that's directly going to increase margin. And 4.6 cents is already really cheap.
We believe that we have one of the lowest all-in power costs amongst miners in the industry. And when combined with our uptime, CleanSpark is one of the top performers. I also want to point out our cost to mine a Bitcoin. Our average cost for 2024 was approximately $21,400 for our wholly owned facilities. Looking at the fourth quarter specifically, our cost to mine a Bitcoin was approximately $36,250, which is an increase of 35% over the third quarter's cost to mine of approximately $26,950. As a reminder, rewards were cut in half 20 days into the third quarter. As Zach mentioned
That's incredible.
earlier,
$36,250 per
Grid
Bitcoin
infrastructure,
mined if you missed
a
that.
Bitcoin miner with operations primarily in Tennessee. Grid boasts 53 megawatts of installed capacity, and we've already begun greenfield development of another 80 megawatts, fully building out a location in eastern Tennessee, while also breaking ground in Jackson in the central part of the state. Grid's footprint in the rural southeast is one that we're familiar with, and we're already porting best practices in community relations that we developed in Georgia to the cities and towns in Tennessee that we now call home. Better still, Grid developed a deep partnership with the Tennessee Valley Authority, one of the nation's premier providers of reliable and affordable power. Thanks in large part to Grid's efforts, TVA's senior management understands the benefits Bitcoin miners bring to the TVA system, while also providing desperately needed revenue to local power providers who have excess capacity but little hope of attracting large industrial customers to their communities. One of the challenges of the quarter came in September when Hurricane Helene made landfall in the southeastern U.S. and disrupted operations at our facilities in Georgia. We suffered a partial outage for 2 to 3 days that reduced revenues by approximately $1 million per day. However, we suffered no property losses and made no insurance claims, a testament to the build quality of our facilities and the effort of our team to harden the sites against damage ahead of one of the worst storms to strike the U.S. in recent memory. But controlling insurance costs means more than limiting claims. It also means working with our insurance company to craft the best coverage at the best price. We've also made significant progress containing costs for property and casualty insurance. Insurance expense for the year was approximately $5 million and is one of our larger G&A expenses. While we expect insurance expense to grow due to the large dollar value of our assets in operation, in November, we renewed our policy and cut our comparable rate by 25% going forward, owed in large part to the growing scale, quality, and
That's
diverse
incredible.
geography of our
Insurance
operations.
rates everywhere are going up
Final note,
25%,
I want to talk
not
about our balance
down.
sheet and our liquidity position. As I previously mentioned, we've increased our Bitcoin holdings almost 260% in the year, and that number as of today is rapidly approaching 10,000 Bitcoin, which would represent almost $1 billion at current Bitcoin prices. We also had approximately $121 million in cash as of September 30th, which represents a significant liquidity position going forward. From my perspective, we have set the stage for a successful fiscal 2025 after navigating the halving in better shape than the rest of the industry. Not only do we have significant liquidity, but we have one of the industry's most efficient fleets at an average of 19 joules a terahash. We have a low cost to mine Bitcoin and industry-leading uptime. Bitcoin mining is a capital-intensive business that requires prudent growth and sufficient scale to succeed over the long term. Our company-wide commitment to this principle allows us to drive value through counter-cyclical investment, opportunistic growth, and increased operating leverage through continued scale. In August, we used a portion of our Bitcoin holdings to secure a $50 million line of credit with Coinbase, something that helped us take advantage of opportunities in the marketplace at a low cost of capital, which currently sits at an annual rate of 8.5%. Looking forward to fiscal 2025, we'll look to find ways to monetize or leverage Bitcoin on our balance sheet as we establish a digital asset management group within the company. Working with staff who have joined CleanSpark as part of the acquisition of Grid infrastructure, we'll look to more actively manage the Bitcoin on our balance sheet with an eye toward capital preservation, generating yield on our Bitcoin, and protecting against price volatility. Heading into this new year, we have significant scale and size, a healthy balance sheet, industry-leading operations, and a strong liquidity position. We are well positioned to pursue diverse capital raising strategies. With that, I'll turn the call back over to Brittany to open the floor for questions.
Thank you, Gary, for that detailed financial overview. We will now open the floor to questions from the analyst community. Operator, Please provide instructions.
So
and
really
manage the
quickly,
queue
I
for the
don't.
Q&A
He
session.
really emphasized diverse
Thank
capital
you.
raising
Ladies
strategies.
and
Whatever
gentlemen,
that
at
means,
this
that's
point, we will
pretty
begin the
interesting to
question
me, at
and
least.
answer session. To ask a question, you may press star and then 1. And if you would like to withdraw your question, again, press star and 1. If you are using a speakerphone, we do ask to please pick up your handset prior to pressing the numbers
He also
to
mentioned
ensure the
generating
best
yield
sound
on
quality.
Bitcoin and
Your first question
capital
comes from Mike
preservation.
Colonnese with H.C.
Interesting. Not much.
Wainwright. Please
I mean,
go ahead.
that's exciting. I wonder where they go with that.
Hi, good
It's
afternoon,
kind of
guys,
a
and
teaser.
congrats on a very strong fiscal year here. Just a couple for me. First, it would be great to get your perspective as to why you believe the miners have lagged Bitcoin this year, especially considering that, at least historically speaking, CleanSpark and some of the other top-tier miners in the space have actually outperformed Bitcoin during this stage of the cycle. It'd be great to get your views there.
Hey, Mike, thanks for joining the call. I think the key with this is you have to zoom out a little bit. If you zoom out a little bit over this, call it a 2-year period, the miners, CleanSpark included, have meaningfully, continued to outperform Bitcoin. I look at this as, Bitcoin's catching its breath and catching up. But I think it's positioned us incredibly well for what is optimally going to be a slingshot in value as the market begins to better understand what the miners can do and how the yields continue to be generated. So hopefully I see this as just a plateau point right before.
Victor, I'm guessing one of
see
these
another
analysts will ask
upswing.
Uh,
about that.
That's great. Great to get your perspective, Zach. And I'm curious if you could provide some more insight in terms of how you're thinking about the current market environment for ASICs. I know you're looking at 50 exahash by the end of next year, but how should we expect CleanSpark to approach the ASIC market? How are you thinking about pricing and future repurchases here?
Yeah, the key for us is we've already locked in price certainty. I mentioned during the call the S21 Pro purchase, which was 160,000 miners, but we also have the XP purchase, which is a meaningful option for us. So in addition to the miners we've committed to, that essentially get us just about to 50, we have the ability to take down even more. So there's another 50,000 units with price certainty on them. So we don't have to worry as much about that swing in whatever the market does. Again, certainty is what we created. We actually have price certainty through 63 exahash on the ASIC market. With that said, regardless of where the ASICs are at on the go forward and in the future, beyond that, we've proven that we have a great track record of having a best-in-class purchasing. So wherever the market lands, we will make the right capital decision on timing of investment, when to add more to those options, when to take down the option, and how we deploy that. So again,
As
I
of
think
the end
we've
of
handled it
September,
really
they said
well as a track record base.
8,049,
We
I
have
believe.
enough optionality
That's,
ahead of us over the next
2-3
I'll call it
months
6
ago.
months. But definitely, our relationships are strong. So I expect regardless, we'll get best-in-class pricing.
Thank you for taking my questions.
Your next question comes from the line of Brian Dobson with Clear Street. Please go ahead.
Good evening. I want to talk about this digital asset management initiative that you highlighted. I suppose what are some of the paths you can take to generate yield on your HODL, and what level of yield do you think might be possible?
Yeah. Hey, thanks for the question, Brian. Look, we're quite excited about pursuing this digital asset management strategy as well. But I'll say that, we're going to pursue a strategy of crawl, walk, run. And really that's going to be, rooted in a first focus in making sure that, we preserve the capital, right? Because when you have the Bitcoin HODL balance that we have, we want to make sure that we really protect that. When it comes to finding those opportunities to generate the yield, we're looking at various strategies right now. We just closed the grid transaction here end of October, so the team's just getting up to speed and really looking at who those partners are. But ultimately, it could take, various forms of providing covered calls, lending to Bitcoin. There's even some talk about, providing liquidity to ETFs in the marketplace. So, but you'll expect to hear more information from us as fiscal year 25 goes on, and we'll really be focused on, getting a healthy return on those assets as the year goes on.
Great to hear. That's very exciting stuff. And then I guess just stepping back, maybe we can look at the big picture for the industry. What trends do you expect to drive mining in 2025? And how has the recent presidential election impacted your outlook for doing business in the United
These
States?
questions are all very boring so far.
Yeah, so from a
must say.
trend point of view, I think that, we have a lot of tailwinds right now. And that has, to hit your second point on the political side, I think we're going to see a lot of opportunities in the capital market further opened as we see a change really on the SEC side. It's been a tough couple years for anybody involved in this sector based on how the regime was previously run. So I think capital is going to open up even more than it already has in ways that will be very positive. In addition to that, I think we're going to end up with regulatory certainty, but just generally a friendlier regulatory environment. So we're incredibly excited about how things go. Now, from an industry trend point of view, I'm going to go back to something that I've kind of been beating the drum on, and that is scale matters. And so the bigger miners like ourselves are going to continue to get the best access and the best pricing to capital, which is going to create the best access and pricing for opportunities. I do think that acquisitions are going to look differently. Private miners are still in the same situation. Just because capital opened up to the publics doesn't mean it's necessarily going to open up to the private miners. So there's still going to be opportunities there. But how we view them is going to really come down to valuation. Where we've seen, people that are very reasonable, they come in at the same valuations. We've also seen,
Thanks,
private
Tyler
miners that want
and
substantially higher valuations.
Jesse, for becoming
This
members.
comes down to my
That's
comment
awesome.
where I said, we're going to avoid making the wrong decision, but we do think miners that have fallen behind may be put in a position where they may choose capital destructive activities as we view them. So there may be some headlines on opportunities that we pass on, and we pass on because it doesn't create the ROI that we want to have. Just because Bitcoin's up, we still have to measure timing to ROI for any investments we make, and that's incredibly important to us. So again, a ton of opportunity in the future, but we're going to approach it with a very measured approach. The great thing is we have several hundred megawatts of opportunities for organic growth, and we've proven that we have a track record of being able to build sites. And so we're going to focus probably in 25 more on building than on buying.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for that color. And I suppose just as a final question, have your thoughts on HPC opportunities changed at all since your last call?
Dear God, they said this.
No, we still think that a very focused approach.
Somebody asked about the convertibles.
As Gary mentioned, we
Maybe
had
I should call
great
in.
cost of production of Bitcoin, and with Bitcoin going up, that even further enhances what was very healthy margins. And so when you look at margins that we can produce essentially tomorrow, right, on any opportunity we look at, the path to high margin revenue is quickest for Bitcoin mining as compared to HPC, and it's not even close. So until such a time as that changes, we are going to stay very focused on what we're doing and what we do best, which is Bitcoin mining.
Excellent. Great to hear. Thanks very much.
Your next question comes from the line of Tyler DiMatteo with BTIG. Please go ahead.
Hi, guys, and thanks for taking the question. Zach, I wanted to follow up on your comments there in terms of the buy versus build decision and how you're kind of prioritizing maybe the build decision in 2025. I guess, where do you kind of see the opportunity in terms of the current footprint? I know you have Wyoming, which is, some incremental couple hundred megawatts. I guess just how do you kind of think about the footprint here more broadly and what's the most readily available as you look out to next year, broadly speaking?
I literally would call in. I don't see a number to
speak
call.
broadly about
Looked at all the press
we see
releases.
the U.S. still as a very ripe opportunity. And it's because we understand power markets here, but we think that based on the changes in the administration, that the power markets will just continue to get better. The U.S. is full of abundant low-cost power if you know where to find it. And we focus heavily on rural areas that are being overlooked as an opportunity. So that's where we see the opportunity being the best in the U.S., is in rural USA. And as we go to these towns, we find that, I look at it this way. If we're going to build something, the best opportunity is to build hardened, immersion-cooled infrastructure. And if we're going to go buy something, there's a lot of air-cooled infrastructure readily available. So that's really going to be how we look at this, is first, rural America. Second, the majority of our builds are going to be immersion-based. And if to the extent we do M&A, which I'm sure there'll still be some, it'll probably be air-cooled. But it's going to be in areas where the advantages to air-cooled are going to be that we can turn it on immediately. It's that turnkey, walk in, generate revenue. And again, we've built our immersion and air-cooled systems in a way that we can now build for essentially the same cost. And so that's how we're viewing how we're going to build and how we're going to buy and where we're going to do it.
Got it. Okay, thankful. And then my follow-up here, just wanted to talk a little bit about fleet efficiently. You guys have done a nice job over the last year improving that. I guess, how do you kind of think about that going through the next 12 months here? And more broadly, as an industry in terms of newer
Can't
generation
tell me
of
none of these
rigs, how
Wall
do you kind
Street
of think about
guys
the
care
step
about the
function
convertibles.
of
I mean,
fleet
this is
efficiency
insane.
and kind
Can
of
we
where,
talk
that
about the elephant in the
improvement
room
can
yet?
really end up over time as we're, kind of sitting in this high teen joules per
I guess
terahash,
this is
but
why Wall
potentially
Street
other rigs
sucks.
coming
I
down into
guess
the,
I don't know.
low double digits.
We're adding latest generation. So, we're adding the latest generation rigs that are in the 13s already. But what we're not doing is we're not retiring things without need. So yeah, we still have some XPs online because they are generating meaningful capital, and it's not capital that
agree,
we're going to throw out
at least
maybe
somewhat with you,
bathwater
billionaire.
just to
But
chase
even if
a
they're
number.
nonsense, like it's
That's
in the
one of the key
headlines,
things
it's
that
what
we wanna
everybody
drive
cares
home
about right now. I
is
mean,
it
you
takes
gotta
balance
address it,
when you're
don't
talking
you?
about capital allocation. So we're not going to
I don't know.
chase the lowest number at the cost of spending capital for, ways that's essentially unnecessary. And so we do expect to move from, 19 to 18 to 17 and so forth all the way down. It's going to be an incremental path that's going to be very measured about return to capital to our shareholders. Now, where do I think that, we're going to go from
I
a
mean, we
Moore's
got
Law
people talking about
point
the
of view?
Mike Tyson
I
fight
think
in
we're
the
going to
comment
continue to
section here. That should
approach,
tell you how
that
boring this
10
is,
or
man.
9 level.
Let's
And then
zoom
I
it
do
up here.
think that's where technology changes are going to be required. The chips are going to be able to do it, but what about the heat extraction? This is part of the reason we're going to build more immersion into the future. I think that air-cooled heat extraction will get more difficult over the next 4 years. And so it will be more valuable to invest in immersion. Do I think that we'll get into the single digits and continue to go? Moore's Law says absolutely we're going to do that. But it's about having the infrastructure ready and available to accept the newest technologies as we progress. Because this is not a measurement of where we're at today or where we're at tomorrow. This is a measurement about how are we going to use capital efficiently to have the right mix of efficiency and power price, generate yield, not now, but also at the 2028 halving. So we're going to look at this really over the entire cycle. But we do think that immersion is going to be a key role in kind of keeping up with that efficiency.
Thanks for the color there, Zach. I'll turn it back to the queue.
Your next question comes from the line of Brett Knoblauch with Cantor Fitzgerald. Please go ahead.
Hi, guys. Congrats on the quarter, and thanks for taking my question. Maybe just touching on the CapEx for a minute. I know you guys have kind of pre-fixed prices on the miner side, but on the infrastructure side, the build-out in
CapEx, are we
Wyoming,
serious?
likely other locations, I guess, what should we be expecting for
Yeah,
next
John, you
year?
haven't really missed
And
much.
in
It's kind of
terms
been
of
a
liquidity,
bit of a dud. I mean,
would you tap
there's
into
a
the
lot that I
Bitcoin position,
respect,
or
and I'll
would you
talk
rely
about
just more on the
here in a
equity
little
market for
bit.
funding the remaining build-out in
But
mining
nothing
purchases?
like groundbreaking that you've missed.
So, we think that the markets are going to be a lot more open to,
And welcome,
diverse
Sebastian,
options.
and
So
welcome,
I'm not going to
John.
commit to any
Thank
one
you.
type of capital at this point in time.
Sorry, I'm putting on a boring show.
We think that
I don't
there's
know.
plenty of room to expand our ability to leverage our Bitcoin further. But there's also other, there's the equity markets, there's non-dilutive, access to capital we can do. There's just opportunity. That's the great thing about being a Bitcoin miner right now is capital markets are open for business. And so how we do that is going to be whatever is going to generate the best return to our shareholders. From an infrastructure side, kind of to your point, between here and 63 is about roughly a $200 million investment. And then, the miners on top of it, which we've secured at, very advantageous prices. So there's not a huge barrier between here and getting to, beyond 50.
Perfect. Thank you. And then maybe just on the M&A landscape, I guess post-halving, I thought there would be a lot more deals than we saw, and I know you guys have been aggressive. Do you think the reason for maybe not seeing more deals in the space is that a lot of maybe the sub-scale miners were looking into alternative use cases for their facilities like AI, HPC, and maybe they're evaluating that before they kind of consider selling, or we see another wave of consolidation?
I think it just depends on where you were at.
All of these
We've obviously
questions they've
took
talked
advantage of a
about
lot
already,
of
like in the
private opportunities
initial
that
call,
existed.
Are
I think that
analysts
there's
just
still a lot of
dumb?
people that believe in Bitcoin want to continue to mine privately.
I don't know. This is why the
And
retail
so I think
investor
that
like
that's
keeps
where we're
gaining
going to see some
traction. I
additional
mean, this is
opportunities
just
come is the private miners that
unbelievable.
wanted to see the other side of the halving. You remember, Bitcoin has proven itself to be very cyclical. And, there was generally in past cycles, it took 180 days plus for Bitcoin price to really adjust. We saw that happen this time around. So there's also the reality where some private miners, they basically just held off. They didn't run anything, and they waited for the 180 days to go by to turn back on. I think that we're going to see some of them, I'll call it exhaust themselves as whatever fleet they had that they just kind of held on and waited to turn back on until Bitcoin broke, for example, 75,000. They're going to have a real decision to make whether they upgrade their fleets or whether they put the facility up for sale. And I think we're going to see quite a few facilities come up for sale after they get one more bite of the apple from a ROI on machines that they maybe bought 4 years ago. And so I think that there's a second wave of private acquisitions to go on. And I think on the public side, it's complicated to do any sort of public deal, and it rarely makes sense to pay the premiums that a public-to-public transaction would require. And so you really have to find the diamond in the rough that makes sense. And that's why I think there wasn't more public-to-public consolidation also.
I guess as you look at the public miners, I think, the top 10 largest have kind of owned, call it 25% of network hash for the last 18 months. Do you think that changes over the next 4 years? I guess talk about yourself and just, the industry as a whole, or do you think other, nation state-backed entities are going to increase hash maybe faster than public entities are, or how should we think about just kind of like your share of rewards going forward?
I think that we will see some nation-state mining, of course, but I don't think it'll overtake kind of a public market side of mining. And the reason is we just have different reasons to mine. A nation-state's going to want to mine just as to kind of pad the balance sheet on one side, or to just add to their own treasuries
100%
on
agree
another.
with Mike. He says, why can't one of these analysts just ask their thoughts on buying versus mining Bitcoin for the balance sheet? This is painful. 100% agree. I mean,
percentage of market share or global hash rate.
Gosh.
And so I think that's going to continue to drive miners to either
Wall Street analysts
increase
too
or at least
much,
stay where we're at as a percentage of global hash. So
I come up with better questions and conclusions and analysis than they do.
We may
I
be
do this by
competing a little
myself.
bit,
I'm independent.
but we're
Come on,
incentivized to
fellas.
keep up.
Maybe it'll still come. I'm just kind of being a Debbie
Thank
Downer.
you guys, really appreciate it.
Your next question comes from the line of Reggie Smith with JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
Hey guys, thanks for taking the question. I wanted to follow up. I know you talked about locking down or guaranteeing your price on devices. I was curious what, if any, impact tariffs could have on that. I'm not sure the relevancy to the space. And then I have a follow-up. Thank you.
Yeah, it definitely could. Now, the units we're buying are not coming directly out of China. They're coming out of other, Asian markets. But
They come
we've
from
also
Malaysia.
seen, and I think it's been an anticipation of this happening.
So they're only paying a
most
few
of the
points in
major
tariffs.
manufacturers build out their production capabilities to include Mexico, which again is still another place that may or may not have tariffs on the next upcoming future, but also domestic. I think that as we see some of the foundries that are starting to get built under the CHIPS Act actually come into reality over the next couple of years, we're going to see a lot of them having domestic capabilities. So I think that there's at least some tariff risk on that no one can protect against, because it just depends on, when you bring it in and where you bring it in from. But that's also the benefit of having a very large fleet stateside. One way to look at it is, if we're at 50 and somebody else is at 20 and they want to catch up, they now have to pay the tariffs on everything in the gap to catch up. So I think there's going to be a potential barrier to growth for some of the smaller scale miners. And of course, the smaller you are, the more expensive your capital is. So again, I think scale matters in a lot of different ways when you look at that. But we'll see what happens with the tariffs, and we'll react accordingly.
Got it. Now that makes a lot of sense. I hadn't thought about it as a barrier to entry for smaller guys to renew or refresh their fleet. So that's a good point. So another question. We've talked about this kind of build versus buy, and obviously the discussion thus far has been mostly around like building your own sites versus acquiring a site. Curious your thinking on just buying Bitcoin outright, and what
Reggie,
what could
go
happen
Reggie.
that may change your view
Yes.
on that. I bring that up because
A good question
there's
from
two
Reggie.
big players in the space that have been pretty aggressively buying Bitcoin. I was curious where you shook out on that. Thank you.
So how we look at this issue is it's the right time, right place. It's a never say never. As part of our strategy to continue to manage our HODL balance, there's going to be times where we're going to buy and sell Bitcoin in certain transactions. In addition to just kind of buying to add to the HODL, one of the things we pay close attention to is basically the average value of what makes up our cost basis for our HODL, which we believe to be amongst the lowest because, of course, we're producing it at very healthy margins. So really the way we look at it is you're faced with the decision: do you buy assets to produce Bitcoin on a reoccurring basis at what right now is better than 50% margins to spot price, or do you go buy Bitcoin? And again, it takes a more long-term view on that when you're buying assets to produce Bitcoin than just buying Bitcoin tomorrow. But again, I think that for the right strategic reasons, we're absolutely not opposed to it. We just feel that the best use and the highest return of capital to our shareholders has really been either buying or building facilities that produce Bitcoin. Now, we are amongst one of the top 10 corporate holders of Bitcoin, and we do monitor that and plan to, of course, increase our standing on that list. And, some of the miners that are buying are also the same ones that are mining at, a loss or a very small margin, so they have less advantages than we have.
Okay, that's an all right
I
answer.
certainly appreciate that.
It's an all right,
Thanks for the,
answer.
Thanks for the insight.
Nothing really changed with their viewpoint.
Great quarter. Congrats.
They might buy it if Bitcoin dips a
And
lot.
that concludes our question and answer session, and I will now turn the conference over to Brittany Moore.
Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your interest in CleanSpark, and we look forward to speaking with you again next quarter.
Ladies and gentlemen, this does conclude today's conference.
All right, I'm going to give you kind of a review of everything that just happened. We didn't get that huge and new announcement, no big updates to guidance. All of that kind of has stayed the same. I guess I should look at how the stock is trading right now. I would guess it's flat. It's down 2.75% right now. What I'll say is if you're a fundamental investor and you're selling after this call, I think you're still making a mistake and you're probably not focused on business fundamentals. CleanSpark's management team continues to pound the table and they're right. They're 100% right and they're 100% truthful. They have the highest uptime. They have one of the best efficiencies, and it's quickly becoming the best efficiency or the most efficient mining fleet. Those things are true. They're the most focused. They're the most disciplined in the space, which I love. I get it. It's awesome. That's exactly what I want as an investor and a believer in Bitcoin. I want a company that's focused and disciplined and deploying their capital where it really counts instead of having capital destruction, and they've been good at that historically. Now, obviously, the disappointing part of this is we didn't get an answer on the convertible notes or convertible debt. At the end, they asked about buying spot Bitcoin. Their answer really didn't change. I guess you could say the door was closed before, and they slightly cracked it open, saying that there might be a time period or a certain scenario that presents itself that would lead them to buy spot Bitcoin, but it doesn't sound like that they're settling on that decision. So let's say they do tap into the debt markets or they do a convertible note. I don't think it would be to buy spot Bitcoin. I think it'd be more to develop their pipeline, develop their infrastructure. They talked about how they have a 400 megawatt pipeline right now, which is massive. And they talked about how they want to keep focusing on greenfield development. So that's basically, instead of acquiring turnkey facilities, they find areas in the country where there's tremendous opportunity for a Bitcoin mining company to, build an operation, and they'll build. That's what greenfield means. Then they'll expand in that location. So exciting stuff. These numbers obviously were for the fiscal full year of 2024. So this actually was as of the end of September. We're at the beginning of December now. So even since these numbers were released, or the number where these numbers reflect, the business dynamics have improved tremendously. They talk about how during at the end of September, the price of Bitcoin was $63,000. Well, now it's closer to $100,000. So the business dynamics, the business fundamentals are extremely strong. They talk about how they have a 4.6 cent per kilowatt hour power cost, which is amongst the lowest. And power costs probably will continue to come down as a result of the Trump presidency, who, is a big believer in developing our own power and energy infrastructure. But that's going to benefit all of the miners. That's not just going to benefit CleanSpark. That's going to benefit each and every one of the publicly traded Bitcoin mining stocks. They mentioned that they think their acquisitive nature is going to maybe cool off a little bit, and they'll instead focus on developing what they have. I started this stream off by discussing how they are long mining rigs and they're long infrastructure. They have a long pipeline. So they have everything they need. They just need the capital now to develop that pipeline. And I think that's where you're going to see most of our capital spent, our investor capital spent, is developing these greenfield sites rather than making new acquisitions of turnkey facilities. Obviously, I could be wrong. The one area of CleanSpark that I continue to appreciate, and maybe this will change at some point in the future, but at least right now, I really appreciate how CleanSpark has 100% of its operations in the United States of America. I actually think that's a big disadvantage for some of the other companies in the space that have international mining locations. And that's for a variety of reasons. It probably deserves its own video. But I like CleanSpark's focus and discipline, and they're 100% wholly owned. They're focused on developing what they have. But at the same time, this call was kind of, I guess I'll call it a disappointment. They kind of reiterated why everybody owns this company. They reminded everybody why they own this company, but they didn't throw meat into the cage for us to chew, for us to fight over. They didn't really do that, which, maybe part of the reason they didn't discuss convertible notes in the call is because they're in active discussions currently to take out a convertible note. That's a possibility. I don't want to be too skeptical. I don't want to put on a tinfoil hat and create a rumor that just isn't true. But that is a possibility. They talked about, and I actually thought this was a very important point. Their cost of capital is 8.5%, which is actually lower than I thought. I thought their cost of capital was in the double-digit percentages. And, if you don't know this yet, you're not going to get a management team that chases what's hot or makes rash decisions or quick decisions based on short-term market dynamics. They're more focused on the fundamentals. I mean, the CFO talked about Warren Buffett in this conference call. That should tell you a lot. So if you didn't already know that, now you know that. They're not going to focus on the short term, and maybe that's to their detriment short term. Obviously right now, retail investors, and I should say Wall Street, debt-only funds, they're chasing these convertible notes. They're excited about these companies doing the convertible notes, but it seems like CleanSpark doesn't have much interest in that, if you ask me. And, they've been correct, I guess you could say, when it comes to HPC and AI. The cool new mojo not long ago was HPC AI. People were saying, you're not going to survive. You're not going to feel the benefits of the Bitcoin bull market if you don't have HPC AI. Well, that's worked out to be false. So I wonder if CleanSpark's kind of taking that same approach, where they don't necessarily think that the convertible note to buy spot Bitcoin is the best return on investment for shareholders. And you can go through my X feed. It was a reply to Jesse, actually, micro to macro. And I broke down, if you take $500 million and buy spot Bitcoin at 90-something thousand dollars per Bitcoin versus spend $500 million on developing 20 exahash per second of a mining fleet, the ROI of developing that mining fleet is still much better. And that, don't kid yourself, that leverage still exists. That's why you want to own these companies, because you want leverage return on Bitcoin. And although CleanSpark's price action has been poor just over the past month or so, you can look at longer time periods and see that it has outperformed Bitcoin, maybe not as much as we thought or we would hope for. But you have to believe that, once these short-term market dynamics kind of work themselves out, that the Bitcoin mining stocks are going to go back to being those levered plays. I've talked about endlessly on this YouTube channel how I believe, it's risk appetite of investors that's really going to drive Bitcoin mining price action, because you buy Bitcoin for one reason, but you buy Bitcoin mining stocks for an entirely different reason. Usually if you buy Bitcoin mining stocks, you're buying it to make money. You're buying it to be profitable on that trade. Whereas with Bitcoin, yeah, that might be a piece of it. But you know why Bitcoin has gone up in price? It's because it's a hedge against inflation. It's a hedge against our monetary system failing. And it's a hedge against economic sanctions. What did we do to Russia when they invaded Ukraine? Well, we took their $300 billion that was sitting in foreign exchange assets in the United States dollar. We seized it. We took it. And now we're deploying that money to defend Ukraine and actually rebuild Ukraine as well. So our adversaries across the world, they're getting away from the United States dollar. That's no secret. And that's another reason gold prices are at all-time highs. They're looking for alternatives to the United States dollar, and that's gold, and that's Bitcoin. So, and we even have the United States talking about, we want exposure to Bitcoin in our federal government. We want, that federal government reserve of Bitcoin. We want that on our balance sheet. So countries around the world are doing that for a variety of reasons. But in the end, Bitcoin prices might drive Bitcoin mining stocks a little bit, but it's really risk appetite. How much risk are investors willing to take at any given point in time? And I would point to things like the price of gold. I would point to things like $7 trillion sitting in money market mutual funds. And I would look at things like the small cap index, the Russell 2000, it's sitting right at all-time highs. Over the past 3 years, it's flat. Over the past 3 or 4 years, it's been a flat return for the small caps. That is not indicative of a risk-on environment. Now, my thesis for all of this, to put a bow on this, is that risk appetite is only going to increase from here. Why do I think that? Well, I mentioned it at the beginning of this stream as well. We have the future president of the United States. I don't think he believes in a proper limit to economic growth. He has a growth at all costs mindset, which is going to be really good for asset prices short term. He's going to stimulate the economy to get it growing fast. And we have the Federal Reserve. Maybe, they're stimulating the economy by cutting interest rates. We have the Treasury Department borrowing money at the short end of the yield curve to buy back debt at the long end of the yield curve, holding long-term interest rates lower, which is stimulative to the economy. So there's all of this stimulus coming into play here. And then you have the $7 trillion sitting in money market mutual funds, that some of which inevitably will come back to the stock market as interest rates come down. So there's the scenario that I keep playing out in my head here is, we're not there yet. We're not close to risk appetite being immense right now. We're nowhere close to the euphoria. And yeah, it might be painful, a little bit painful short term, but that's the cost of beating the markets. You might look like an idiot. You might look dumb short term, but you're setting yourself up for that long-term success when the tide does shift. I also talked about, you don't want to be a part of the flock that just flocks to what's hot, flocks to what's popular, because then you're just going to match the market's performance. Or you might even underperform if you're just chasing what's hot. To beat the markets, you have to beat the markets to what the next trend will be. I personally believe that is small caps doing extremely well. I personally believe that is Bitcoin doing really well. I personally believe that's risk on returning in the markets. And that's why I have long exposure to CleanSpark. So regardless of whatever short-term move they do or don't make with their business, regardless of whether they make some short selling, covering, huge announcement, I'm more focused on that longer term. I really could care less about the technicals. I could care less about the short-term market dynamics. I can use it to be informed about what's going on in the marketplace. I was the one that broke the news on the internet. I mean, my video went viral, 70-something thousand views, talking about how these funds are short-selling Bitcoin mining stocks to hedge their long exposure to these convertible notes that they have with MicroStrategy and Mara. I was the one that broke that, but I'm just using that to be informed. Seeing that there's artificial selling pressure in these companies right now. Seeing that it's also the emotional traders that are selling out because of some short-term downwards price action. I don't know about you guys, but I want to be on the opposite side of the trade as those short sellers and those emotional retail investors. Now, don't hear what I'm not saying. This earnings call was a little bit disappointing in that we didn't get a huge announcement and we kind of thought one would come. But it's not going to change my viewpoint on this company. I'll run the numbers. I'll update my price or my fair value spreadsheet for my members in the Discord server. I'll do all that stuff. My guess is it's not going to change. And that's just my thought right now. I'll go through a few of these comments here. Rumi says, what guarantees that Bitcoin's price will stay at this high level? If Bitcoin drops, CleanSpark will also fall. They failed to take advantage of high Bitcoin price cycle. I am out. Well, it's exactly what I just talked about. Where do you think risk appetite is going to go? What would cause Bitcoin to fall 30, 40, 50% right now? You could say recession, but we haven't had a recession despite interest rates going up. So now that interest rates are falling, what makes you think we're going to have a recession now? I don't think that scenario is very likely. In saying that they didn't take advantage of Bitcoin's high prices, I think that is way out of bounds, and I'm not trying to offend you. This is just my personal thought process with this. What did they do at the bottom of the bear market when nobody else had the courage to do it? Well, they went out and they built their infrastructure. They bought those mining rigs. They bought, those facilities at rock bottom prices to set themselves up for high Bitcoin prices right now. I wouldn't say that they didn't take advantage of it. But again, that's just my personal opinion. Biz says he'll keep selling covered calls, at least make some money off holding. Not a bad idea. I've talked about previously that I think these companies could sell puts of their own company to combat some of the short selling. If you sell puts, if the stock price falls, you buy back your own stock. And if the stock price rises, you rake in all of that premium. So that's additional yield on your cash that you can get by selling puts on your own stock. This is one of the ideas I had. And if I think the company should be doing that, that's maybe not a bad avenue to explore. I know there's a few in our Discord server that do that as well. They sell puts on CleanSpark and the Bitcoin mining companies. And I don't think that's a terrible idea. I really don't. And they've had a lot of success doing that. So I hope they continue to have success. Let's see. Let's do a couple more comments here before I sign off. And thank you all for coming out. We reached like 1,900 viewers, which is insane. Subscribe if you're new here or returning, you're not yet subscribed. We've had a lot of fun on this YouTube channel. We're growing pretty quickly. MB says, the reality is that we are in meme mode. Anything that does not trade like a meme becomes irrelevant for the next few weeks. That is true when it comes to short-term market dynamics. I think you're probably talking about the convertible notes and how investors are flooding into those trades. Yeah, you're right. I just don't think that that's going to last long-term. I really don't. But anyways, with that, guys, I'm going to end this stream here. Thank you all for showing up. We had a ton of new members sign up, a ton of new subscribers, a ton of viewers show up. Thank you so much. I'll leave this stream up for replay if you want to go back and re-listen to what they had to say. There was one good analyst question that happened at the end. You might want to go back and re-listen to that if you missed it. This is a good note to end on. Biz says, when others are fearful, you be greedy. Yeah, and we talked about that. A lot of people think you can't tie in Warren Buffett into this risky space that is Bitcoin mining companies, but I think you really can. I think you can, and it's really the people that do that are going to succeed. But anyways, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay blessed. Keep 10 toes grinding your chin up. I'm going to work on feeling better because I feel like I've been hit by a bus today. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out.